First of all, I want to say good morning, rise and shine. Welcome to the Narrative Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, G, or you can call me GT, whichever you prefer. Uh, Go ahead and get ready. I haven't had my coffee either, but off to a good start. Uh, I got a message from an old friend of mine. Um, I used to date her friend, a friend of mine named Tiffany, which I wish I had of followed her lead, and I'll tell you a little bit about that here in a minute. If you listen to some of my earlier podcasts, I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Growing up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, I've always been a really private person, right? I never wanted anybody to know what I was doing, and I'm still like that. You know, when I used to go to school, I mean, I was real quiet in school and everything, but people didn't know that outside of school, I was, you know, this, you know, basically whore. And I was real into myself. I remember one time, I remember this female I was dating. She said she didn't like the way I looked at her. And I took it as, because I didn't give second chances. I took it as I thought that she said she didn't like the way I looked, and I, hung the phone up, took away her number, and kept it moving till this day. And that's just the kind of person I was. I was real arrogant, but I was somehow. The funny part about that is people respected that. So we're in Kalamazoo, and a friend of mine who I had met when we moved from the west, we lived on the west side, Concord Apartments, and then we moved kind of west of the north side, the west end. So I met this guy because we used to walk to school, and he was the one that I kind of, me and him kind of, ended up being good friends or whatever. Uh, so I met him, and we used to hang out, go over chicks' house, all kinds of stuff. Um, so one day he tells me, he says, "Hey, this chick, she wants to meet you." And I looked at him like, who? Because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, who even knows me? Because my thing was, I'm so insanely private. The only person who even knew where I was at any given time and could get in touch with me was him. And that was just a friend. His name was Calvin. Well, his name is Calvin. He's still alive, the last I knew. But he said, "This chick wants to meet you." So I'm like, okay. And I'm still thinking to myself, like, how in the world does this person even know who I am? So fast forward a little bit. He says that they want to meet me, or the one chick wants to meet me, and we we arranged to meet them at this laundromat um around the corner from where I live. So we go and we're playing, kind of, we were kids, so we're playing like, you know, kind of chasing each other around this building or whatever, kind of to soften things up, I guess. And don't get me wrong, I was nervous, but I got out of my nervousness and just kind of bit the bullet and just said, okay, I'm gonna just roll with this and just kind of make myself, you know, get out of who I really am. which was I was really nervous. And at one point, I didn't even have conversation. I used to sit there and think of things to say while I was talking with a person, and it was horrible. But so this time we're chasing each other or whatever. So we finally stopped, and I'm trying to think. I forget what happened next. We might have been standing there talking or something like that. Then fast forward, eventually I got a number. We dated. It was hell. It was hell. But and not because anybody's fault. It was just it was just that time. We're both younger. She had rules. I didn't have rules. I didn't know myself. We were kids. But okay, let's fast forward to the reason I'm even bringing that story up. So at one point in time, uh, a friend of mine, her name was Tiffany. She ended up moving to Kentucky, and at the time, we were all. I guess you could say we were all uh, kind of Kalamazoo. We were stuck in that bear hug of comfort in Kalamazoo. So that was like that was like the first mistake right there. We were stuck in that bear hug of comfort, and we thought, at that point we were kids. We thought Kalamazoo was like everything. Thought Kalamazoo was like the best place on earth. You know, and you heard about other cities or whatever, but she ended up. I think she must have. I'm not sure if she moved or went to visit family, whatever. I don't know, but I know eventually she ended up moving. And the reason I say I should have followed in her footsteps is because she got out of Kalamazoo. She got out of that small city life early, which is, what, a lot of, at least for me, I wish I had have done. 'Cause I think things would have been different, you know. But she got out of Kalamazoo early, and then she ended up just moving to Texas. I mean, not Texas, Kentucky. And that was just a good thing because she got out of Kalamazoo early. And that was, that was really important. And I didn't realize it till later on in life, till I actually moved, like, man, I should have done this. I should have done this earlier in life, but I didn't. But it was still, um, it was still a good thing, and, some people they're in Kalamazoo and they just, they pretty much ruined their life in Kalamazoo. So now you're stuck in Kalamazoo, what, your life is ruined. You can't go nowhere, no license, yada, yada, yada. And I don't know, that's just not a good thing, you know. But, but anyways, fast forward a little bit. She always kind of has always been a good friend. Um, always, I never had got any negative vibes about her, anything negative to say about her, nothing like that. Always just a genuine good person, if you ask me. Um, so every now and then she'll contact me. It's nothing, uh, nothing besides that. She's married. I think she might have a son and a daughter or something like that. Whatever, whatever. So we're just friends, strictly friends. Um, But, she always gets in contact with me, says, "Hey, how you doing?" Whatever, and I definitely appreciate it because, it's not something that it's not a person that I reach out to. She reaches out to me. I don't do it because I know that people are kind of people can be kind of funny sometimes. So I kind of refrain from that because people will take, if you reach out to them, people will take that, turn it into, you know, tell their husband he trying to hit on me or I'm not interested, and that's it. I'm just saying hi, so I just don't say nothing at all. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying at all that she's this kind of person. She's not that kind of person at all that I know of. But to be on the safe side, I don't really reach out, especially to a married woman. I don't reach out because it could be taken the wrong way, and then it's one big thing that I'm into that that I just don't want to be involved in. Especially now that I've done the work on myself. But today I was on my bike and I decided to do an hour today. I usually do a half hour, but I think I missed my last biking thing, so today I just caught up. I'm thinking about doing an hour every day from now on. But she got in touch with me and she said, "Hey, how you doing, friend? Long time no see." I said, "Yeah." I said, "You're right." She said, it has been a long time. And she said, "How you doing?" I said, I'm doing good. I'm hanging in there." I said, "How you doing?" She said, "Yeah, I'm doing pretty good." And then I said, "Hey, well, I definitely, uh, well," she said, "Well, hey, I definitely, it's good to hear from you. Glad to see you. Glad to hear you doing okay." I said, "Yeah, same to you. I'm glad that you're doing okay also. And I definitely appreciate you, sis. I appreciate you for reaching out, and I appreciate the love because I do. I appreciate, you taking the time. I appreciate her taking the time to reach out and just say hi or say, hey, how you doing? Yada yada yada. And she's definitely a person I hold in high regard as a friend, and not only as a friend, but as a positive person. That I can say that you know it would surprise me if something negative came from her because I just don't see her as being that kind of person. But I definitely appreciated her reaching out. It really made me feel really made me feel good to hear from somebody because a lot of times in these days people are going through so much and it's like they're going through whatever situation in life and it's like it's got it's like a magnet. There anybody that gets close to them gets sucked into their drama. No matter what, how nice or what kind of situation you're doing, you get sucked into their drama no matter what. So that's why I stay away from people. And I got 3 Facebook friends, and I don't even accept Facebook friends unless it's everything on one of my pages is only associated with my podcast. So it's a bunch of podcast people on there because those are really the only people I want to talk to. It's people who are in podcasting or are doing certain things, um, doing whatever. We're all in the same. We're all in the same uh uh kind of podcasting thing, same era. And whether it's podcasting, whether it's DJing, whether it's you beat making or whatever, we're all in the same area. So those are the people that I wanna talk to because we're talking about the same thing. We're doing the same thing. I'm a really friendly person, but I have to learn to kind of stay away from kind of stay away from people that aren't doing the same thing as me because it always end up being a kind of like a leech situation. I'm a friendly person, love to talk. It's like people sit there and soak that up, and all of a sudden they're asking you, 50 questions. What you got this? Can I use this? Can I get that? Can I get this? Can you do this for me? Can you help me? It's like no. I had one guy. It's been a year or two. One guy he called me, and I sit on the phone with this guy for an hour, telling him every detail about how to get a job. You know, Go to call him back, dude wouldn't even answer his phone. I'm like, what in the world is going on? So, like, what in the world is going on here? So it was like, kind of after that, it was like I have to realize that I have to, keep my mouth shut, because it's like, you know, not very many people are, y- I guess not very many people are like me. And I'm not saying I'm some super great person, but me, I'm a little bit different. If I ask you for something, it's like a little tidbit of information, and I'm very, uh, what's the word you want to call it? Very thankful. If I hear you talking about something, I say, hey, excuse me, I don't mean to bother you. Did you say something about, yada, 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 and all I need is a tidbit of information. And then I'm good. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So, I didn't mean to cut in your conversation. Didn't mean, waste your time, yada, yada, yada. And then I'm off and running. When I get home, I'm Googling and trying to figure it out and all kinds of stuff. But I'm not going to sit there and ask you 100 questions about something you just said. Like you're going to sit up there and hold my hand through the whole process. And then even after that, I'm still not going to call you. If I get in touch with you, it's a dead emergency a situation. It's just something I can't figure out. And when I get in contact with you, I'm saying, hey, you know, man, I'm sorry for calling you. I really am. I'm sorry for wasting your time. If I need to, if you charge something, I can give you something, whatever. But I just need to ask you one question, and that's it. I'm not going to bother you anymore, because I know that you have things to do. I'm a grown man. I need to figure it out on my own. You've done the hard part of giving me the information, but you're not going to sit there and hold my hand. And I think that's what a lot of this culture expects you to do. They expect you to hold their hand, and that's just something for me. Already being a friendly person to start off with, that's something that me in my book I have to kind of stop doing because people will take advantage of that. You're a nice guy, and they'll just set up and just ask you question after question after question after question. It's like, dude, you probably need to figure this out on your own. I'm not going. I'm not going to gonna sit here and hold your hand, bro. I'm just not going to do it. So, um, but yeah, back to uh, what I was saying earlier. I was glad. I'm always glad to hear from people, um, old friends and everything, because we all have lives and we're all doing things and all kind of, we're all living life and taking care of family and kids are grown and you're trying to work and you're trying to maintain, and all that kind of stuff. I think the last person that got in touch with me was an old friend of mine, Santos Harmon. He got in touch with me, and he was a guy that I went to school with. Real cool dude, but he went blind right after he graduated from. Well, right after I thought he graduated. I didn't know that he graduated after I did, but he went blind right after he graduated. So that was, that was something else. That was like a new. I don't know. It was like a new thing. He had to go to blind school and learn uh braille and all kinds of stuff. And that's a rest of your life kind of thing. That's not just hey, let kind of move on kind of thing. So uh but it's not always a cool dude. I was actually, when I was thinking about doing podcasting, when I first started my narrative mindset, this podcast, in the early episodes, I thought about doing a podcast with Santos and just two guys, talking because that would for him that would give him something to do. I would think because he's blind, and I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I don't know anything about being blind. It is an extremely scary thought being blind because it puts another level of isolation. When you get older, if you're not married, don't have a house full of family members or whatever, then you're there's a level of isolation there. But now if you add in, you're blind, you're not driving, it's different layers of isolation that you end up being in. So uh but I'm not saying that blind people are destitute. I'm just saying that being blind is a different layer of isolation, I think. And I'm pretty sure, and I've heard blind people say they have their days. They have their days when it kind of gets to them, and I'm sure that there's more of them than not, and you have to kind of get through them and just kind of keep going and uh and keep pushing and keep doing your thing. And that's just the way it goes. I'm a diabetic, so I'm always kind of keeping my eye on my thing because as a diabetic, I can go blind. So it's like I definitely don't want to go down that road. But hey, as always, I just wanted to get on here and talk about that. That was kind of. I'm not gonna say it made my day better, but it made me feel 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 joyful to hear from a friend. Positive input always. Positive input is always good. Definitely better than negative input. It's definitely better than something that's interrupting your peace. So, it's not that many uh happy people out there. Some people might call me unhappy. Sometimes I can at times be a little bit of a negative person and I'm working on that. But it's always good. Definitely always good. Uh it definitely well, I'm definitely working on trying to be a definitely a good person because I want to be around positive people. I don't want to be around anybody that's negative. So I just wanted to make an episode about that, and I hope everybody's having a good day. Well, actually, when you're listening to this podcast, it's 2 in the morning when it comes out. So have a good day. Have a great day. I'm G. Thanks for listening. I'm out.